That sound, that roar from the Chicago faithful, that really followed Steve Mongo McMichael his whole career. A career that, well, defined a whole era of Bears football. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really focusing on the incredible life and legacy of this Chicago icon, Steve McMichael. His recent passing after a really courageous fight with ALS has hit a lot of people hard. So we've gathered quite a bit here: news reports, official statements from the Bears, thoughts from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We want to use these to understand the full picture of Steve McMichael. You know, his impact as this force on the field, but also as someone who faced that final challenge with just unbelievable strength. Our aim isn't just to rehash the headlines. We want to really dig into what made him such a key figure in Chicago sports, and also try to understand the bravery he showed fighting ALS.
It really is striking, isn't it? Someone known so much for physical power, that huge personality, and then navigating such a difficult personal battle, apparently, with so much strength.
Yeah. So let's start back at the beginning. He was born in Houston. Early life, his parents separated, and he was raised by his mother, Betty, and his stepfather, Evie McMichael. He took his stepfather's name, of course.
And growing up in Freer, Texas, the guy was just an incredible athlete. I mean, across the board.
It's almost hard to wrap your head around. Football, yeah, obviously. But basketball, too. Baseball, which was apparently his first love. Track, tennis, even golf.
Yeah.
What does that tell you, being good at everything?
Well, it points to just raw foundational athleticism, doesn't it? Great coordination, and you have to assume a really deep competitive streak right from the start.
And the football offers 75 schools. People like Bear Bryant, Darrell Royal.
Exactly,
Yeah.
which just underlines how special his talent was seen. Even then, it's interesting, Bryant saw him as a tight end, Royal as a defensive end. He ends up at Texas, of course.
Playing defensive line there from 76 to 79, and really making his mark.
Oh, absolutely. Became a consensus first-team All-American his senior year.
Yeah.
A huge achievement.
And that college success, it was recognized later too, right? College Football Hall of Fame in 2010.
Yep. So after that dominant college career, it's on to the NFL.
Yeah.
Drafted by the Patriots, third round, 1980.
But that New England stint, it was really short, just 6 games.
Yeah, surprisingly brief.
And the reports back then suggested his intense personality maybe didn't quite mesh there. What's your take on that? Team dynamics and all that?
Well, it really shows how important the right fit, the right environment is in pro sports. You know, that same intensity became his trademark in Chicago. But maybe in New England, at that specific time, it just rubbed people the wrong way or didn't fit their culture.
It shows that strengths aren't always seen the same way everywhere. It depends on the team.
Exactly. And the contrast when he gets to Chicago is immediate and, well, pretty telling.
Right, because this is where things really click. He signs with the Bears, meets the legend, George Halas, and there's that great story. Halas knew about his reputation, this intense guy, and supposedly tells him, "Don't change, Steve."
Classic Halas. Knowing Halas's own tough reputation, it feels like he saw something familiar.
What do you think Halas saw in that intensity? What did he value there?
I think Halas probably saw a bit of himself,
Uh-huh.
that relentless drive, that refusal to compromise. He loved players with a physical edge, fierce competitors. McMichael's reputation probably signaled, this guy won't back down, this guy hates losing. Halas ate that stuff up.
And history proved him right.
Absolutely. McMichael plays 13 seasons for the Bears, 81 to 93.
And sets that incredible franchise record, 191 consecutive games played. The Iron Man streak.
Just unbelievable in this sport. Think about the wear and tear, especially on the defensive line.
What does playing that many games in a row say about him? Just dedication, durability.
It says everything about his toughness, both physical and mental, his commitment to the team. I mean, just showing up and playing through probably countless injuries. It requires incredible resilience and, frankly, a refusal to sit down.
And, of course, he was right in the middle of that legendary 85 Bears team, the Super Bowl XX champions, that defense. Still talked about today.
Oh, yeah. They were a benchmark for dominance. And he wasn't just along for the ride. He was a core piece.
First team All-Pro in 85. He's second all-time in Bears history for sacks, 92.5, only behind Richard Dent.
Which is saying something, playing next to Dent.
He even finished his career with the Packers in 94, but looking at his whole career, 847 tackles, 95 sacks overall, fumbles forced, recovered, even a couple of picks in 213 games.
2 first-team All-Pro, 2 second-team, 2 Pro Bowls.
When you see those numbers, those honors, what really jumps out at you about his playing career?
For me, it's the mix of longevity and consistent high performance. staying that good, that impactful on the D-line for over a decade. Earning multiple All-Pro nods, winning a Super Bowl that's rare air. His sack numbers are impressive on their own, but doing it alongside another elite pass rusher like Dent really highlights his own disruption factor.
And then there's the personality. Off the field, Steve McMichael was maybe even more memorable.
Definitely larger than life.
You had the nicknames, right? Mongo, obviously, from Blazing Saddles.
Perfect.
And Ming the Merciless. He was
Yes,
just
yeah.
brash, never afraid to speak his mind. A huge figure in Chicago because of it.
Always had something to say.
And then the jump into professional wrestling, WCW in the late 90s. How did that happen? It almost felt natural for him.
It kind of did, didn't it? His natural charisma, that big personality. It was almost tailor-made for pro wrestling. He knew how to work a crowd.
He started as a commentator, right?
Yeah, then joined the Four Horsemen with Ric Flair. I mean, getting into that group says a lot about how WCW saw his potential as a performer. He could command attention.
It was a really interesting second act. He even popped up briefly in the WWF, didn't he? In Lawrence Taylor's corner at WrestleMania X1.
Right, little crossover moment there.
And he stayed connected to football, too. Hosted a Bears pregame show, even coached the Chicago Slaughter indoor team.
He clearly loved the game and loved being part of the Chicago scene.
What do you think that meant to the fans? Seeing him stick around, stay involved?
I think it built an even stronger bond. He wasn't just some legend from the past. He was still there, still talking Bears, still part of the fabric of Chicago sports. It kept his legacy alive and let new fans connect with him, too.
Then came the really tough news. April 2021, the diagnosis. ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yeah, just a devastating diagnosis. It's a neurodegenerative condition. Attacks the nerve cells, leads to muscle weakness, loss of control. It's brutal.
And for someone who was the definition of physical strength facing that disease, it must have been incredibly difficult to process for him and everyone who admired him.
It's a really stark reminder, isn't it? The disease doesn't care who you were or what you did. ALS is indiscriminate. And for someone like McMichael, whose whole identity was tied up in physicality,
Yeah.
facing something that takes that away piece by piece, there's a particular cruelty to it.
He first noticed, what, tingling in his arm?
Yeah, and initially, understandably, thought it was just old football or wrestling injuries catching up with him.
Took a while to get the actual diagnosis. A neurosurgeon mentioned ALS in September 2020, but it wasn't confirmed until January 2021 in Chicago, then the public announcement in April.
And the progression, by all accounts, was rapid, just heartbreaking. Seeing this powerhouse, 270-pound athlete become bedridden, needing machines.
His wife, Misty, talked about his strength, even while acknowledging his fear. What does that tell you about the person inside? That even in that state, that inner strength was visible.
It speaks to incredible resilience, doesn't it? A depth of character. Even when the physical body was failing, his spirit, his will to, keep fighting, was still there. Misty's words really highlight the courage and dignity he showed, facing something so immense. Maybe qualities that weren't always front and center during his outspoken playing days, but they were clearly there.
And right in the middle of all this difficulty came this huge recognition. He was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, August 2024.
Yeah, and thankfully he was able to witness it, to know he'd made it.
Must have been just incredibly emotional. What do you think that induction meant to him, to his family, his supporters?
Oh, huge. A massive validation of his entire career, his impact. Facing what he was facing, getting that ultimate recognition in his sport. It must have brought some measure of peace, of accomplishment.
And for everyone around him, a chance to celebrate his legacy, see him get his due.
Definitely. And the statements after he passed, from George McCaskey at the Bears, Jim Porter at the Hall of Fame, they both really emphasized his tenacity fighting ALS. McCaskey mentioned that cruel irony of the Iron Man facing this, but also his dignity in humanity.
Porter said he fought ALS with the same spirit he showed on the field.
And the way his old teammates rallied around him during his illness, that says a lot too. Ric Flair calling him his best friend through it all really shows the personal connections he made.
So we look at his legacy. Steve McMichael, forever that fierce, tenacious competitor, anchor of the '85 Bears, that incredible Ironman streak.
And now, a Hall of Famer, officially enshrined among the greats this past August.
But maybe beyond the stats and the gold jacket, it's the impact, right? On teammates, friends, those Chicago fans. That's the lasting mark.
Yeah, that cruel irony of ALS taking such a physically imposing figure, it's a really poignant reminder about life's fragility.
Steve McMichael's life, it really is a story of intense competition, this larger-than-life personality, and then Ultimately, just immense courage when things got incredibly tough.
His battle with ALS, while tragic, really did mirror the tenacity he showed his whole career.